be honest, we've all found ourselves craving the hopeless romantic dream, stumbling into someone in real life, meeting a partner who ticks every single box. Attractive, intelligent, kind and funny, gives us butterflies and makes us feel like a teenager. We all dream of this, yet we all hate dating. The constant back and forth, the awkwardly waiting for them to ask you out on a date. It's like we either postpone dating and we'll say, we'll date when we're ready, we'll date when we finish this work project, we'll date when we graduate university, or we are currently dating, but we just loathe using the dating apps. But ultimately, both of us feel exactly the same way. I just want to meet the right person. My time will come, I don't want to settle. And when it comes to dating, we've been fed lies by the media and movies telling us things like, you just need to meet the right person, your time will come. You fall in love when you're least expecting it. But this is a myth. After reading book after book on love and psychology, the whole love is effortless and wait until you find the one is a myth, and here's why. Hey, if you're new, I'm Christina and I make videos for people who are feeling lonely. If you're a people pleaser, overachiever, over anythinger, you're in the right place. You might be wondering, meeting the right person is a myth? Why is it a myth? I'm gonna tell you. Chances are you want luck, but you don't trust it. I feel like a lot of the people that are hopeless romantic and have these big dreams and fantasies about what they want in their love lives tend to be, in some areas, quite controlling. They are really rigid about the standards they have. Like, you have to be this tall, you have to have this career, you have to have this many previous partners. If it's too much, it's a problem. If it's too little, it's a problem as well. When you are dating, you're crafting messages. You can't just send something on a whim and just trust that it'll be fine. You're like calculating exactly what to say, how many messages to send because you don't want to double text. Now, this is all totally understandable. Everything I've just described, I have done before myself, but this is all incredibly calculated. There's so much thinking involved in all of this. There's so much planning ahead, but it's the complete opposite of what you want. All the fantasies that you have of just stumbling across someone when you least expect it at a coffee shop, or meeting someone at the gym, meeting someone at a random moment and just trusting that will happen. All of the things that you do in your day-to-day life without even thinking, like, you just automatically start planning what you're going to say and thinking about it. Chances are you're the sort of person that can guarantee results in your life. You can guarantee success. You can put in the hard work, put in the planning, put in the strategy, and guarantee a really good result in areas of studies, academia, your work, your career. But when it comes to love, things are lacking a little bit. And whether you want to admit it or not, love and romance and relationships has a lot to do with luck. You can go on as many as the dating apps as you like, but it doesn't guarantee that you will get into a healthy, loving relationships. I was listening to a podcast with the dating coach called Matthew Hussey, and he explained this beautifully. I'm going to insert a clip here.
There are absolutely a portion of people who are being fussy about the wrong things in life. And as a result, they keep looking past some wonderful people that they could be very happy with. But I think it's really, really important that we acknowledge that our love lives is an area where we feel a painful lack of control. Our love lives aren't Monopoly, where we just keep accumulating houses and hotels and we just keep building this wealth bank. It's not a savings account. It's chutes and ladders. You feel like you make a load of progress and then someone breaks up with you and you shoot right the way back down to what feels like the beginning again. And that can happen to someone who has been in a 10-year relationship that they thought was going to be the relationship of their life. They thought that was going to be the relationship they built a family in. And then all of a sudden at 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, they find themselves on their own again. When we want to earn money, we can go out and just make more sales. When we want to save money, we can just deposit more in an account. When we want to get a better body, we can go to the gym every single day and we can improve our body. We can change our diet. But if you want to find love tomorrow, there is no equivalent for what you can do to guarantee you get that result.
Partially, I think the reason why people so desperately want love and maybe can't admit it to themselves, how desperately they want it, is because it's so out of their control. I feel like the more of a person you are that has control over your life, you are good at what you do, you're really successful in what you do. So when it comes to love and romance, it's so based on luck that it's actually like annoying and frustrating. And sometimes I think that fuels some people's desperation. But one thing I've learned after reading a book called How to Not Die Alone is lean into the fact that this is out of your control. There is a lot you can do, which I'm going to talk about. There's the apps, there's the standards that you have, there's the ruling out people with like icks and red flags and pet peeves. But if you want to be lucky, you have to allow luck to happen. Standards and requirements for dating can all be well and good, but sometimes it actually crosses a line where it actually becomes a little bit controlling. And the more controlling that you are of something, the less that you allow the luck to happen. You don't find the right relationship, you create it. Speaking of requirements, restrictions, standards, rules, a lot of us have been hurt, and I think sometimes the reason why we have such a solid and rigid checklist is because we've been hurt by someone in the past that maybe wasn't emotionally available, and so now it's an absolute requirement that we only speak to people that are emotionally available. Or maybe it's not emotional availability, maybe it's someone who's got their career in check, someone who's not in debt, someone who's earning over 60,000, 70,000 a year, someone who doesn't live at home with their parents, someone who has their own apartment, someone who's got a mortgage. No matter what it is, we've all got our standards, we've all got our checklists. But a huge thing that I learned from this book is that a lot of us, because of our lists, we're not actually relationshiping, we're relationship shopping. The same way that you would go on Amazon and try and choose your next coffee machine and choose the size, the price, the features, the colours, the amount of flavours it comes in. We're doing that exact thing with actual people, actual men, actual women, actual people on dating apps. When she made that comparison, relationship shopping, I had my mind blown because I was like, that is so true. Like, we all do it and we all make excuses for it. Like, oh no, but I deserve a guy that has like a really good job. I have a good job. I deserve a guy that also has a good job. In an ideal world, meeting our ideal partner would be super easy and effortless. It wouldn't take too much work. We wouldn't have to scroll on apps for hours. We wouldn't have to go on countless annoying, and very mediocre dates before we meet that person. And sometimes movies fuel this desire even more. Like, you see how effortless it is in the movies, or how cute it is, or how funny it is, how memorable it is to tell like your first meeting story, or the story about how you first met. But something that you really need to grasp is the fact that love is effortless, but dating is not. The process of dating does take work. To set up a profile and think of prompts on Hinge takes a lot of work. The process of messaging people back and forth, things falling through, okay, he ghosted, I might ghost him, that takes work. To go through that process and think that this is too much work, I must be doing something wrong, that is actually the problem, not the dating itself. Going back to the concept of relationship shopping, there's commonly two types of people when it comes to actual shopping and also relationship shopping. There's satisficers and then maximizers. Satisficers are people that kind of have to make a decision about going out with someone. Maybe they tick some of their boxes, they get along really well, they're kind of funny, they maybe don't have the right job, but they see potential, they're happy to make it work, talk things through, and just, you know what, they'll settle down, they'll get exclusive, they'll become into a relationship, they're satisfied. Then there's maximizers, who are the sort of people that in real life when it comes to shopping, they want to read every single review. They want to read all of the top 5 picks, top 7 coffee machines to buy on Amazon. They want to do thorough, extensive research, watch all the YouTube reviews, all the TikTok reviews. And then similarly, when it comes to dating apps and relationships, they will go on dates, maybe meet people, talk to people, they'll see a minor flaw, and because of that, they'll ditch them and then move on to someone else. They're maximizers. They want to maximize as much as they can get from every relationship or every single dating opportunity. Their motto when it comes to dating is I just need to keep looking. My time hasn't come yet. I'll find the right person. The right person will find me. In the book, she spoke about the fact that maximizers often think that careful analysis can make your life better. The more research you do, the more planning you do, the more thinking you do, that will make things better, and that will make you make a better decision. They're often perfectionists, which is why I think it probably resonated really well with me. As I was reading, I was actually she's describing my life, she's describing who I am. But what I'm so glad that I now know after reading this is that you don't find the right relationship, you have to create it. Satisficers are often statistically happier in life and also just in relationships, not because of the decision that they've made, but just because they're happy about their decision. As a maximizer, when I've read this, I'm okay, I've clocked, I am a maximizer. I try to maximize as much as I can get out of the new laptop that I buy, the new, jacket that I buy in my wardrobe. I try to maximize as much as I can get, and it's the same on apps. I'll be really picky as I'm going through profiles on Hinge, he's 5'9", no, because I'm 5'10", and he's only 24, I'm 23, it's too young. I'm just so picky, to a ridiculous amount. But what I've learned is that what healthy people do, what satisficers do, is that they have to make a decision and they're happy about it. I might make a decision and buy a certain laptop, and then even when I do get it, when I do get the laptop or I do get the new tech purchase, I would still second guess myself, oh, the screen isn't really what I expected, the battery life isn't as good as they said it was, oh, it doesn't have as many ports as I thought, I'm gonna have to buy an adapter now, I didn't plan for this. Even after I've done all the research, there's always a tiny little thing that I didn't think about or didn't investigate, and then that makes me feel oh, I've not done a good enough job, I'll have to research more next time. And then it fuels the cycle even more. Next time, I'm not trying to tell myself, just be happy with your decision. It's okay, just be happy with what you've got. And next time, do even more research, plan even more. And then when it comes to relationships, now going forward, I'm thinking I shouldn't really be making decisions based on a checklist and what I see and what I can see on the profile. It's more how I feel talking to the person. Because if a date goes well and we're talking, we're getting along, we're laughing, things are going well, good vibes, have stuff in common, then that's a good sign. That is what you can work with. That is potential. That can be built up. I think my problem was before I was trying to find someone who was like a finished product, like someone that is like, okay, you're all done, you tick all the boxes, you're finished and you're done, rather than something or someone that I could like build with. Often I think when you're a maximizer, you have high standards for other people, probably because you have high standards for yourself. You're not really picky for no reason or because you're entitled or because you think you're better than everyone else. Like, you put pressure on yourself. You're called a perfectionist for a reason. You're looking for perfect in other people because you expect perfect of yourself. Making a tiny mistake or like being late by 5 minutes, doing the wrong thing in a presentation, literally is enough reason to have a meltdown. Like, when I was in my peak perfectionist days, any little thing going wrong, like my world would crumble. My whole entire self-esteem and self-confidence was just based on the fact that like I do things well, I do things perfectly, I'm always on time, I'm always organized. Like, so anytime that didn't happen, I would just crumble, I'd spiral. So it's almost like with dating, you're kind of looking for someone who is the same, someone who also has maybe these high standards. You don't think of it in that way, but this checklist that you've made is kind of like pushing you in that direction. On a similar vein, you don't find love, you build it. In a podcast I was listening to, I couldn't believe the statistic. Apparently, some sort of researcher went into a college and asked a bunch of students, I think 300 students, if given the option to have unconditional romantic love in exchange for abandoning their life goals, would you do it or not? 73% of the students said that they would abandon their life goals for unconditional love. Like, let that sink in. That is crazy. To think people would be willing to let go of like dream job, dream house, dream car, like dream travel plans, like all their life dreams they willingly say no to and say like, I'm gonna park that if it means that I can have a lifelong committed unconditional partner. Like, that's mind-blowing to me, but it also doesn't surprise me as well, because I feel like for some of us, one of our life goals is probably to have a very loving, committed partner, like unconditional love sort of thing. But you'd never openly admit it to like actual people. You'd never openly admit it to like friends, because it feels embarrassing to ask for this sort of thing. It feels embarrassing to ask and to admit that you do have a desire to have a really loving partner. And I feel like because some of us want it so badly, you put so much pressure and you're being so strict on the requirements. But what I've come to learn from reading these books and all these podcasts is you don't find love, you build it. This comes easier to some people than others. In particular when it comes to attachment styles. When I learned this, my mind like reconfigured. My mind shifted, things rearranged, my brain was reorganized, reshuffled. I couldn't believe the things that I learned. So there's 3 main attachment styles. I'm going to explain each one briefly so you kind of have like a bit of an overview of what they all mean. So there's the anxious attachment style. If you've ever seen Twilight, Bella Swan is actually a really good example of someone with anxious attachment. This is when your parents gave you inconsistent love and attention. So sometimes they were available, sometimes they weren't. So now when you're older and you're in relationships, when you do receive affection from your partner, like things are cool, but then when you don't, you really fear rejection. Anytime that you do get a lack of affection for whatever reason, you see it as like you're not worthy of love. The partner and the love that you receive is really wrapped up with your self-esteem, and you constantly need reassurance, and you're probably the sort of person that often gets called clingy. The second attachment style is something called avoidant, and this, if you've ever seen James Bond is a classic example of someone who's avoidant. They're often very reliant on themselves, very self-sufficient. They come across very like put together, but they have a huge difficulty opening up and being vulnerable. They probably had very cold and distant parents growing up that didn't often like meet their affection needs and their relationship needs. When they are in relationships, they might seem like they're close to you and like they are, you know, obviously in a relationship, but they're like emotionally distant. And having an avoidant attachment style is more common in men, but it can also be seen in women as well. It can be seen in like career orientated, motivated women. And then the last type is secure. A good example is Pam Beasley from The Office. This is when you had very available parents growing up who were always there to give you love and affection. They were probably very comfortable with intimacy, which means that now later on in life you're very comfortable with intimacy, you're open about your feelings, feel very comfortable talking about them, don't feel like you have to hide your emotions, and you just generally have a very healthy view of yourself. So when it comes to you don't find love, you build it, people with secure attachment, this comes a lot easier to them because they feel really comfortable being open and talking about their feelings, communicating their wants and needs, their boundaries. They have realistic expectations of a relationship, and they don't have like this extremely blown out fantasy and like vision for what they want. Avoidant, on the other hand, they tend to be emotionally distant and like checked out of a relationship, but often they have like really high expectations of what they want. They always have like this concept of like, oh, but my ex was way better, or like, oh, she's not the one because if she was the one, she would be doing this, this, and this. They always have some sort of like a really high expectation in their mind that they compare their current partner to, or the person they're going on a date to. They tend to break up with their partners quicker, and they're normally the ones to do the breaking up because they don't open up and be vulnerable. They're often quite distant and cold in relationships, and it means that breaking up for them it comes a bit more naturally, and they don't feel the need to cling on to their partner like anxious people do. And rather than just talk about their feelings and be vulnerable and open up like secure people would, rather than do that, they'll just break up as soon as there's like a red flag or as soon as there's like an issue that they see. So what does that mean for all of us? Okay, so we're perfectionists, we're maximisers, we like to make the most of every purchase and every relationship. Maybe you're avoidant, maybe you're anxious, maybe you're cold and distant with partners and you're constantly thinking about their negative, or maybe you're really clingy and each time that your partner doesn't reply to your message, you freak out and you're like, they don't love me. Well, what do we do about this? Well, stop looking for a perfect partner and start looking for a good enough partner. Avoidant people often have a really long checklist of what they want in a partner. Avoidants often are like really successful, career-driven, really smart, intelligent people. So they're often like the perfectionist type, often the maximizer type, but you can kind of have overlap where these don't always like intersect. But what I find, I was reading a blog post on this, where talking about the checklists in dating and people having lists of like the eye colour, the skin colour, the height, the career, like the things that they want in a partner. And the blog post was talking about the fact that these are often superficial wants, but not deep needs. If you've watched any videos on relationships or even like how to find a partner, how to manifest your partner, how to manifest your dream partner and stuff, every TikTok and YouTube video will tell you to make a list. So that's not the problem. The problem is what is on the list. Is it a superficial want or is it a deep need? A lot of the time, appearance, like six pack, like those are often the surface wants. Just on the surface level, what they should look like, what they should talk like, their career, how much money they have. But actually what should be on the list is deep needs. Emotionally, what does that person do for you? How do they reassure you? What's their communication style? What's their attachment style? How do they treat you on good days and bad days? What's their love language? How do they show their love language to you? Things on the deep needs should be the things on your list. I think a good way to tell the difference between the two, the surface wants and the deep needs, is say you were stranded on a desert island with this person. You've got no access to your phone, no access to Instagram to show off what they do for you. They don't have their job, you don't have your job. What now do you and this person have? Those are the deep emotional needs and the actual thing that is going to keep the relationship together. If you take away their height and how they look and their six pack, or say it's a girl, you take away her level of attractiveness, how hot she is, like if you take all that away, what is actually left? Those are the things that you actually want on your list. And my next point, settling isn't bad. Dating has become so binary. This is a red flag, this is a green flag. This is toxic, this is healthy. He's a golden retriever, she's a black cat. He's high value, he's low value. It's like we forget that there's a middle. We forget that there's a middle ground where people exist. Sometimes your standards, you can relax about them and not worry about them as much. All these high standards that you've set, when you remember that, like, oh, there's a middle ground as well. Like, there's so many people along that spectrum that I could meet and talk to and get along with that might not be at the top end. Like, there's people maybe towards the middle to high end, people in the middle end, and if you want to keep it there, then that's okay. Like, it's not like a one and done thing. It's not binary, it's not black and white. Like, but when it comes to looking for a partner, sometimes I think you see stuff online that makes you feel like you absolutely cannot tolerate anything less than the top 5%. Like you've settled if you've done that. And like there's a whole stigma around settling, as if settling is bad. Like, the only thing wrong with settling is the fact that you feel like you failed. Is literally the pressure to do it. Like, a lot of the time I think the settling thing and like never settle, keep your heels high and heels as high as my standards, like all this stuff you see on Pinterest and stuff. I feel like it preys on maximizers as well, perfectionists, people that just love to be the best. You're normally really good in your job, in your career, like you're used to being the best, so you want the best. And it feels like, just like you wouldn't settle in a work project, you would go above and beyond to make that work project amazing. You also will not settle when it comes to finding the right partner. Like, you just will not settle. You have to find the one. And honestly, after reading this book, she kind of talks through actually a bunch of different scenarios where girls and guys have set out like the perfect partner that they want to look for. Guys have always got this vision of like what their perfect partner looks like and her body type, and she talks about the actual partner that they end up with, and it's normally like something completely different. And what I find so interesting is that like the people are almost happy that they settled, like in a weird way, after having this vision that they want, meeting someone, like getting to know them, being with them for a couple years, getting married, having kids, like they're always so happy that they did settle. I'm sure there's other examples that people will comment where like people settle and it doesn't end up going well, but the book really inspired me actually. Like settling is not bad, and settling, you know, if you're settling from an unrealistic expectation down to a realistic one, I don't think that's a failure. I think that's a win. Like, you've gone from something that could never have happened. It's unrealistic. It literally could not have happened. And you've settled for, okay, this is realistic now. This is actually going to happen. I'm actually going to get into a relationship. That is a win. Because I hate to break it to you, a lot of the standards that we do set as perfectionists, avoidance, maximisers, people that just are so good at what we do, we want the best in our relationship, just like we do in our careers. Like, a lot of our standards are unrealistic. Like the list that you've written down from that TikTok about manifesting your perfect partner, like sometimes it is unrealistic. And that's okay. I've come to realise a lot of the time, like perfection or something that looks perfect, something that seems perfect is often really boring. Like sometimes when I see like influencers having a great time at like a party or some really fun event, and then I go watch a YouTube video from someone that actually went to the event, and it's like, it's always really boring. Like they say in the video, like, guys, like it looked like we were having the time of our lives. It was so dry. It was so boring. Okay, my next one's a controversial one, but relationships aren't special. Sometimes when you have been single for a really long time and you've been putting it off, postponing things, like I'll wait till I graduate. I'll wait till I get my promotion. I'll wait till I have bought my house. You start to like put relationships in a more and more special, coveted position because you've been so long without it. It becomes more and more like exclusive. And that can make the pressure to find the right relationship even more stressful because it is more and more serious. It's more and more special. But something I've come to realise, not even just from any book or podcast, but just like from observing my friends and me being back on Hinge now, because I'm back on Hinge, is relationships really aren't special. Relationships are just like friendships. Like the basis and the foundation of any good relationship is a friendship at the end of the day. I'm sure we can all agree, people say it all the time, but like it's always best, or a hallmark of a good relationship is just the fact that you guys get along really well. You're really good friends. Like you started off as friends, then developed a relationship, or you met through mutual friends. Like if you don't have a good rapport with each other and you don't get along, like what is even holding a relationship together? So ultimately, if you started to stress yourself out and tell yourself like, I'm gonna be single forever, like I've been single for so long, like why haven't I found someone yet? You are absolutely fine. You have hopefully a couple of good friendships. You've already proven that you have the core of a good relationship, a friendship. You already have friendship with people. Maybe they're not with the opposite sex or the sex that you're like attracted to, but you already have a proven track record of having a good established foundation. You got the foundations of a good relationship. A common theme from all the things that I've learned recently, podcast, books and stuff, is just the fact that most relationships don't really suffer from a lack of chemistry. They suffer from a lack of foundation. It's really common for people to try and find the spark or meet someone that they have a spark with and stuff. Like they want that chemistry at the start. And so many things that I've come across have all gone like, that is a waste of time. Like don't go looking for the spark. Actually try to build something. Try to build something from the ground up. Have a solid foundation, have a friendship, get along with the person, have inside jokes, like bond over common activities that you both like to do, bond over a TV show, like have a foundation and just a foundation. Have a friendship first. All the things that you would talk about with your friends, like what you're up to on the weekend, what your hopes are for next year, like if you're going traveling soon, if you're seeing your family soon, how close are you with your family, like all the things that you would talk about with your friends. Those are all things that you should be talking about with a potential partner, with a date. Maybe not on the first one, but definitely later on down the line. Sometimes when you have been single for so long, you feel you put so much pressure to only say the right things and talk about certain things that you're not even being like a good friend. Like you're like performing in a way and being someone that you're not. But ultimately, I've just come to realise, like, don't make relationships a special thing. Like, at the core of them, you want a foundation, you want a friendship, you want to get along with them, you want to laugh with them. Like, it shouldn't be too much pressure. One of the dating coaches that I was listening to talked about the spark that people look for, and he described it so well. I'm gonna insert a clip here.
Your life in the new year isn't the fireworks that you saw the night before. Your life is who you go home to. What is that home like? What is your life like the next day? That's the quality of your life. It's not the fireworks that you look up and see the night before.
Right.
And a relationship is the life you go back to. Mm-hmm. It's not the fireworks that you look up at for 10 minutes and think, you know, they're so magical.
Thank you for watching, family. That's another TED Talk in the books. This one was a bit of an interesting one, honestly, to research and to like listen to all the books and podcasts and stuff. I feel like I've learned so much. Genuinely, the Attached book about attachment styles reshuffled my mind. Like, I thought I had my eyes opened. My eyes are open now. Like, I just know so much more about myself. Highly recommend that book. I'm going to link it down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what video I should make next, and I'll see you in the next one.